that brings me back to the core issue of why this court's initial decision in Roe versus Wade was correct in the first place. And that is that there is this constitutional right to privacy. Even counsel for the United States conceded that there is a constitutional right to privacy implied by the various provisions of the Constitution. Counsel for the government conceded the correctness of this court's decision in Griswold versus Connecticut, recognizing a constitutional right to privacy. Now, it's true that decision involved contraception, but the core of the decision is not specifically about contraception, but about the fact that married couples and individuals get to decide, free from government interference, whether or not to have a child.
But counsel, even in Roe v. Wade itself, we acknowledge that the right to privacy that was recognized in the Griswold, the contraception case, didn't reach as far as pregnancy, because pregnancy, at least arguably, involved a third party, the unborn child. This is a human life, at least arguably. That makes it easily distinguishable from a case of contraception. There are just two parties where there's contraception, but with abortion, there are three.
Well, absolutely, Your Honor. The situation of abortion is distinct from the situation of contraception, pure and simple. That is not questioned, and that was conceded by this court in Roe when it went on to say that the right to privacy extends this far. We will absolutely agree with this court that Roe versus Wade was a substantial and notable and important step beyond Griswold versus Connecticut. But what made that step appropriate and legitimate in the first place was this court's initial recognition that there is a constitutional right to privacy, and that privacy right includes the choice whether or not to bear or beget a child. Specifically, Your Honors, the problem we have with denying that right to privacy with respect to the decision whether or not to have a child is that if you deny that, even in the case of pregnancy, what would keep the government from passing a law? I would hope they would never do this, but what would constitutionally keep the government from passing a law mandating abortion in certain circumstances, requiring that a woman not have, say, a second pregnancy, limiting the number of children that families could have? The only thing that supports our freedom to have families is the freedom to make the choice in the first place whether or not to. There are some things that government cannot do. There are some things that should be beyond the reach of political decisions, beyond the reach of majorities. Counsel for the United States said, well, it's good to have people debate this in the political process. Some things, yes, but fundamental constitutional rights, the right to choose whether or not to have a family, the right to choose how many children you have, the right to make choices about your own medical care, are constitutional rights that must be reserved for the people who are most directly involved. That is the woman in consultation with her doctor.